practically every one of the top 40 records being played on every radio station in the United States is a communication to the children to take a trip, to cop out, to groove. The psychedelic jackets on the record albums have their own hidden symbols and messages, as well as all the lyrics of all the top rock songs. And they all sing the same refrain. It's fun.
This is a special request. We don't want you to smoke genetically modified ganja. We want you to smoke the real thing. We want you to smoke the natural herb. Some call it marijuana, some call it sensimedia, some call it lamb's bread, and some people call it ganja.
Welcome to another edition of the Adam Dunn Show. I'm Adam Dunn, your host.
And I'm Mitch, your co-host.
And we have a nice, relaxed kind of, well, I wouldn't say it's relaxed, but we're not going crazy this week.
Well, it's cool because we do have a deep topic. It's Organic Integrated Pest Management. But what's really cool is that, yeah, definitely. And it's going to be heavy because we have Clackamas Coot back on. But what's cool is no one has to take notes this time because Coot and Jeremy from Build a Soil have gone ahead and prepared a report. And stay tuned, and we'll give the link to the report at the end of the show.
Nice.
And we'll also post it everywhere with the YouTube video. It'll be in the description, in the iTunes long length description, and obviously on Facebook where we post friggin' everything.
Yeah, and it's good. It's nice to talk about organics again because that was like our number one show we ever did, really, right?
Not live views, but after the fact, more people have downloaded that show for sure. Awesome,
yeah, and I mean it's like timeless information too. So it's like stuff that even though every day things change and there's all these new products on the market, we're talking about pretty much age-old techniques, and that's kind of what you. With cannabis, a lot of times people try to go hyped out. They want the latest, greatest. It has to pour it out of the bottle. Boom, it happens overnight. But that's not how these things work. Everything works in time. Things work off of each other. That's the key, I think, the whole thing about organics.
And exactly, and we'll get into a lot of that, in the show when the guys start really talking about the system. But it is about getting that synergy of different ingredients in the soil and different additives and the compounds they form. And we'll learn a lot. I mean, one of the things I love, one of the reasons that I started getting really into learning from Coot is that he's all about, making your own DIY, not buying your pesticides. So,
and if you're doing large scale, you're going to realize that is a complete waste of money because in the long term,
to pay for pesticides, yeah,
and also exactly, and a lot of these pesticides and just in organics compared to synthetics in general. I mean, at a certain point, people think it's cheaper, but then in the long term, they actually realize they could have saved a hell of a lot of money if they just understood how to work with organics.
And the real cool thing is that Coot advocates growing your own ingredients for the pesticides, so you're not even and then making your own essential oil, so you're not even necessarily buying anything.
Sounds awesome, right?
Yep. So
we'll get into that in a sec, and then
got a couple minutes. Let's talk about 710. You did 710 Cup at your place, right?
We did. It was actually quite a success. I was pretty scared looking into the week because it was like I looked on my iPhone and it was like basically rain every single day, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like after the carnival last time with the snow, with the blizzard. So I'm like, "All right, this is something's up." Turned out to be awesome every day. I think we had a light sprinkle around 3 or 4.
Just cooling it down.
Needed it, actually. It was quite hot. But we had an awesome time. We had about 25 booths at our spot, which is, respectable. It's not huge. We weren't gigantic or anything, but super intimate, really nice. Everybody had a good time. And I mean, I think crazy part, not that it's so crazy because we're all professionals, but not one person really went down. We had one guy who was kind of sleeping everywhere, but that's not going down. We didn't have anybody fish out.
One guy did from the dab grabber, that big 300-pound dude, man. The guy who had that dab grabber thing.
Oh, I missed that.
I was gone too. I went to pick up your veggie dogs, and I got a text message from Brittany saying, and Baki was there too. He saw this guy take the dab grabber and then bam, down backwards.
See, I'm not a big fan of the dab grabber thing anyway.
It was scary.
It's like doing hot rails or something.
Dangerous.
I don't know. It doesn't seem really right. There's something wrong about it. You know what I mean? It's but overall, the event definitely went super well. I think next year the plan though is to go much bigger again. Go back to what they were last year. I mean, last year they had about 8,000, 9,000 people.
Yeah, it was a big event.
And I mean, this year was definitely toned down size-wise. Also got kind of fragmented. They had the Chalice out in Cali too, which I heard was
the best.
Ridiculously gigantic. Metallic. They had the Coachella stage. It was the Coachella stage, so that's huge. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
right off
crazy.
The bat. So, but apparently that also went pretty well. again, I think we should all join forces back again the way we were. Maybe do them a week apart would be a smart idea.
Or do like a week-long thing and have people split it.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, next year is going to be sick because it's going to start on a Friday, too. So
Right.
we have a long weekend coming up for sure.
Well, let's take some time to shout out Way to Grow, yeah?
Of course, number one sponsor in the growing equipment region, I should say, because we have a bunch of number one sponsors. But they are 6 shops all over Colorado. They're having their cool down sale this month, which is can fans and filters, 30% off. Also, today is, what day is today?
Today is the 16th of
Okay,
July.
so tomorrow and the next day, they're going to have mini twister demonstrations in all their stores. So,
that's really cool.
That's actually something interesting for a lot of people.
What are they demonstrating on?
I don't know. That's interesting. What would they demonstrate on?
Hops?
Something.
Maybe?
I don't
Because,
know.
like lavender's not going to, you don't need to put lavender in a twister.
Interesting.
You got to go into the store to find out.
Probably just going to show you what it looks like, and you're going to say,
No way, dude. They got to demonstrate.
okay, well, we'll find out. We'll be down there to find out
Yeah.
ourselves. But yeah, like I said, they are doing their cool down sale, so come check it out because it's getting hot out there.
Yes, sir. So we got news.
We got some news?
Yeah, what you got there? This is like some
I got
communist
No,
weed.
This is good.
No,
This
it's
is
good
good
stuff. It's
This
really
is
good
actually something that I pretty much have been saying since day one, that if there's enough people, especially once it gets into this recreational and medical situation, but so Berkeley came out with a plan to give free cannabis to the poor. Like if they put marijuana, so I'm not going to say marijuana. Cannabis to the poor, and it should almost go without saying. And I don't know about. I mean, I was actually thinking more on the medical side. Like I thought recreational should take care of medical. Medical shouldn't have to pay anything.
Oh, that's a really good way.
You know what I
to do
mean?
it.
That would be the obvious. And this is taking it one step further because, we're trying to help out. I mean, and this would help out people because, of course, what people don't realize is that when people in the lower brackets, there tend to be, obviously, alcohol is big thing for them. And to give them cannabis, it's like I feel like if every time I see a homeless guy, I'd rather give him a bud than money because I know he's going to take that money and spend it on alcohol. So it's like giving people weed for free always is a good thing. I mean, I always think I think I made that guy's day or week sometimes when I hand him a bud. And
speaking of that, we got to shout out. It's Burnt MD's birthday.
Oh, birthday.
And did you know what Burnt's doing for his birthday? He's
Giving
doing
away
exactly
weed.
that to homeless people. Yeah,
Nice.
that's he's going and giving food and weed to homeless people for his birthday.
That's a good idea. I mean, that's what I mean. So that's kind of like where I think if you took the Colorado, if you took Denver, for example, where on every single block there's a guy with a sign, and pretty much every other one says 420 on it or a weed leaf's on it or something. So I'd be interesting to test the health of them compared to the health in other cities where nobody gives them free weed because, and probably be doing a lot better. I mean,
that is an interesting study.
So anyway, these guys are, how much are they taxing? 2%.
2% of the crop.
Yeah, so 2% of the crop will be set aside and given free to residents with incomes below $32,000 a year. Pretty interesting. I like that.
Below $32,000
Yeah.
a year?
I think I'm everybody
in this room.
So you're telling me if I move to Berkeley, I get free herb just for living in Berkeley?
Yeah.
But
of course, to live in Berkeley is pretty hard if you're
it's
homeless
a
or if you're poor.
The other
rougher than Boulder.
That's like the month rent, isn't it?
are people just going to give like shitty weed, like the shittiest 2%?
Yeah, I can't imagine they're going to give them all their top.
Oh, we got
right?
the Nug Run.
Nug run for homeless.
So sometimes things go well in news. I got another one here, dude. So you remember last week we talked about that dude in Washington who was the first dude to buy legal herb in Washington, and he got fired.
Oh, yeah, I remember we reported that.
So Michael Boyer is his name. He's 30 years old. And when he got back to work, they made him take a drug test. He worked for a temp agency, and they saw him on the news, and they were like, screw this guy, we're firing him. But it turned out he already filed for the day off in advance, so it was okay. And they actually gave dude his job back. He said he doesn't harbor any ill will toward the company, and it was widely and falsely reported by other news outlets that he'd also been fired from a second job, his security job, but that had nothing to do with that at all. So he seems like he's optimistic, and this is an interesting... Imagine 5 years ago talking about a guy being fired for smoking herb and then getting his job back.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm sure it's happened, but at the same time, not this publicly, that's for sure.
Certainly not. And then more good news, dude. So the White House just today said that they believe that cannabis, they said marijuana, but we'll teach them, cannabis policy is a states' rights issue. The Obama administration believes that cannabis policy is a states' right issue. The White House said Monday in opposing Republican-led legislation that will prevent Washington, D.C. from using local funds to decriminalize. But it sounds like that went through, I was reading, and there's decrim in D.C.
Yeah, I always laugh whenever DC does this kind of stuff because if they can't handle it in their own town with all the politics that go down there, if they can't hold this stuff back, how do they expect any other state to even think about it? Like, province, I guess. They're not even a state.
Yeah, they're like a district, right? They're the only district. But apparently,
London, Vatican, and
the Democratic representative of the District of D.C. called the representative who was opposing it a tyrant for meddling in the district's governing process with the amendment, pointing out that Maryland just voted to decriminalize marijuana possession. The amendment is aimed at blocking a recent D.C. law. That's what this guy tried to pass that they then stopped. That lowers the penalty for processing small amounts to just a fine. So that's our good news for the week, I feel like. But we have some sad news too, yes?
Yeah, we had some sad news. A good friend of mine passed away in Amsterdam, and he was well known in the cannabis community. He's Crazy White Sean is his title. But,
stage name, yeah.
Stage name. And he, Sean Wilson was his real name, but he basically was a fixture of Amsterdam for... He was there. I think he was there like 2 years before I got there. So he was an old timer.
Wow,
for sure.
27 years, huh?
Yeah, he'd been there forever. He had a daughter. He has a nice, beautiful daughter. But he basically passed away, and it was pretty sad because it was like he's had a hard life. He's a freak show performer, so he staples things to his forehead. He puts things through his penis. He does a lot. He does a lot of things.
Crunchy smiles when you say that.
Oh yeah. He swung. I mean, I have so many shows because every Cannabis Cup I would always get like, all right, we need Crazy White because he's the man. He'll shock everybody. And we had some shows that just blew people away. I mean, he hung my lowrider bike off his cock and swung it off the Milky Way stage, and everybody was just like, "Oh my God, this guy's out of his mind!" Crazy, crazy guy.
And you said he stapled High Times to his forehead and shit.
Yeah, it would take he would change his show because his show was basically mostly sex and blood, but that was his thing.
Value.
So I was like, well, it's Cannabis Cup. We less blood. More buds, you know what I mean? So he would hang bongs off of his eyeballs from fish hooks and then take hits off of it.
That's awesome.
I mean, crazy stuff.
That's pretty cool.
Literally crazy stuff. Hang hoodlums through his nose and, just...
Yeah, coat hanger through the septum with a 20-pound hoodlum hanging from it.
Yeah, he had some skills, that's for sure. So we just want to give a shout out to him and, hopefully he's in a better place now and anybody who knows him knows he's like, we're just going to... I mean, this is probably the biggest party in Amsterdam for him right now because they're having, everybody's coming in from everywhere. So wish I could be there for sure. Wish I could be there.
We're there in spirit.
Definitely.
So I guess we should also just talk about what's going on in general. I mean, 7-10 week having come and gone.
Yep.
With
another holiday, made-up holiday.
It's kind of cool that we have like our own Hallmark holiday creation system, and we've done it for 420 now, and now we just made 710.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's
Hallmark's pissed right now. They're not making any card money off that either. They haven't made a dime.
That's what we should do, bro. Corner that market. Adam Dunn Show.
Greeting cards.
Yeah, if you like that idea, leave us a comment in the YouTube, because I'm thinking we could do holiday greeting cards. Also, there's no like non-solvent hash holiday.
Oh, we have a whole new holiday to come out.
Right?
Yeah. Solventless Sunday or something.
No, it's not a
too
day
often.
Of the week.
Yeah. Every week. Every day.
Well, I mean,
August
every day
22nd.
Yeah, is that your birthday?
No, my birthday is tomorrow. Crunchmas.
Yeah, Crunch. Oh, yeah, it's Crunchmas. It's Crunchmas Eve.
It's
That's
Crunchmas
news.
Eve today.
I didn't realize.
So you know what Crunchy's doing for his birthday?
Dressing up like Santa Claus and giving out weed?
No.
No, why would I dress up like
See,
Santa Claus?
so Burnt is giving out weed
Crunchmas.
for his birthday.
Yeah.
So Crunch, why don't you tell us what you're doing? What you were just talking about.
Make us a bunch of food?
He's making himself some food.
I'm going to kill a chicken.
Oh.
Not just any chicken. His chicken.
Well, yeah, one of my chickens. We recently found out yesterday that one of my chickens is not a chicken, but a rooster.
Ah.
And so in a couple months, he will get rather sexually salty with the other chickens. So we might as well make a good meal out of him.
Poor cock. Gonna chew on some cock later? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
It is my birthday.
That's
All right, while you're making weird Crunchy comments, Crunchy did make you a delicious breakfast burrito.
He did.
Where's your breakfast burrito?
It's in my bag.
It's organic. So Crunchy's an urban farmer.
I see it. Here
And
it is.
he's
Here
an
it is.
organic
Here it
master.
is.
Eat that shit.
I can't eat and talk.
I know. Well, that's what I'm trying to say.
You just want me to eat and you talk?
Well, I want Crunchy to tell us about so we have a distinguished panel of organic farmers in the room. Crunchy doesn't think himself distinguished.
I'm not distinguished at all.
But alongside Crunchy, we have our good friend Nick from Boulder Wellness, who I'm going to say top organic grower in... I don't know, man. Like, I've seen a lot of organic grows, and you said the same thing. Like, a lot of people know their shit. A lot of people doing really advanced stuff, but they're usually not the cleanest. you know, or the best setup. But Nick's
Sometimes people think organic just means dirty.
dirty.
Like,
It's all alive. It's okay. The system balances itself.
I insist on a clean shop, so that's definitely not dirty around our space. You know.
Turn that, yeah. There you go.
And I mean, just one of the best, most practical setups. And the other cool thing about Nick, that when we started talking, you were hip to a lot of the stuff that, you know, we know, the soil amendments that we use, the aerated compost teas and all of that. But you weren't on the forums learning it from the same dudes we were learning it from. You were teaching yourself.
Yeah, I've had the good pleasure of working with a lot of people that are a little more knowledgeable than I, that have shared a lot of their years of experience. But you know, we did manage to create our own type of actual vortex brewers, where we can brew target teas for specific different varieties. We're trying to quantify the you know, sort of categorize our different varieties that we grow into groups that like similar nutrient regiments and soil mixes and whatnot. And you know, as much as we are a clean shop, it's also like a mad scientist space, because we've constantly got, you know, 4 or 5 different new soil mixes and new tea recipes that we're trying. And you know, again, I think research and development is really a huge key in success in organics, because once you become complacent, or once you feel like you know it all, you're screwed, man. You're not learning anymore, you know.
For sure. Well, we're going to get deep into some of that in a bit. Let's just take a minute to shout out Incredibles. Yeah?
Oh, yeah, your favorite. Tell us about your Fireberry experience.
So, my parents came to town last weekend, and it was excellent. They came and saw the baby. And when they did come to town, I had a bad back. I slept weird on my neck. So I ended up going into the fridge and grabbing myself a Fireberry bar that we had sitting there. It was the middle of the night. You know, I woke up in the middle of the night. I couldn't even open my eyes. The baby was crying. I just was like, my neck. I just need a little piece of this thing. And I forgot that the Fireberry bar is just like a teeny portion of a bar. So I was like, oh, there's 2 pieces in here. I'll just eat those 2 pieces. That's the whole thing's 250 milligrams. That'll be like 50, 45, 50. It'll be great. No, sir. That is not how many milligrams I ate. And I had quite the enjoyable edible hangover till about 3 o'clock the next day. So shout outs to Incredibles. Pick up them Fireberry bars. 250 milligrams ain't no joke.
Yeah, Fireberry is one of my favorites for sure.
So we have Jeremy Silva from Build a Soil on the line, and Clackamas Coot with him. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Hey, welcome. Clackamas Coot is on the line as well. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Jeremy, and thank you guys for putting together today's presentation. So what we want to cover real quick is why growing organic is important. This is something, you know, you guys already know that it's important, so you didn't include it in your presentation. But you know, my favorite thing about growing organic, like I mentioned last time, is that you can do it forever. It's sustainable. Crunchy. This is definitely a crunchy organic spin, I think. You know, the idea that you can just keep this going. You don't have to. We're not going to run out of earth or carbon.
You
or
can
fuel.
literally have almost a closed loop system that won't stop.
And that's the beauty of all organics. And Coot, one of the things I love about your method is, you know, using some of the inputs in creative ways. Obviously, there's the fact that it's biocompatible, non-toxic. You're not worried about spraying Avid or spraying, you know, all the various chemicals that we freak out about. And once you get into the plant growth regulators as opposed to the synthetic plant growth retardants and some of the more dangerous chemicals, you really, you know, you're just making a healthier thing, especially when you're talking about medicine. And then,
well, could I?
Of course you can, Coot. Welcome.
Yeah, let me. The medical side is, I think, I guess, it's becoming more and more important. And with I downloaded the document from the state of Washington that is controlling the stores and whatever up there, and it's going to get tighter because as more and more states consider medical marijuana, you can go to the bank that purity is going to be an issue if for no other reason than that some that are really opposed to it can use this as a way to slow things down, if you will.
That was
really
Jim's big comment on
testing.
BHO the other week too. That, you know, the reason we got to be concerned about the purity and safety of our BHO isn't necessarily for health concerns, but because there are going to be people who are going to use every excuse to jump in and smash it down.
Right.
So
be prepared, I guess, is the be proactive and not reactive, I guess, is present ourselves as we're producing legitimate medicine. You know, if it were any other medicine, there would be purity laws, and there, you know, to whatever degree. There would be some standards, and I think that's going to be the hallmark for future legislation in other states.
And we already see in Colorado, Adam, PGRs are like you can't get Bushmaster here, right?
No, they all got it pulled. They got pulled, I think, a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, that's what I think. So we, you know, we already see it, and as people get more, as the lawmaking bodies get more informed, right? Like, and then the other reason to grow organic big, you know, there are obviously many reasons. Cost is a huge one. It costs you a fraction as much. That's what Adam was talking about in the beginning of the show. It costs you pennies on the dollar, if that.
Right.
And the other big piece is all the non-organic horror stories. Adam, your buddy Soap Guy is
Soap
gonna
Man,
call
yeah,
in?
yep. Soap Man will call in a little while and give us a little update on his, you know, his history around Ohio area growing. He's an organic farmer himself, but he was surrounded by non-organic farmers, and that kind of just, you know, ruined the area. And he'll tell us a little bit more, but definitely caused some health issues in the area too.
And that's, you know,
and that's what we're trying to avoid. Obviously, that's the most.
Yeah, well, especially
pretty much the most important part of this is health. I mean, that's kind of what we're basing this on. I mean, organic, it's great for flavor, it's great for all those things, but really, when it comes down to it, it's just something you're bringing into your body. So you want to, like, that's my whole theory. It's, you know, everything quality, the highest quality that you can ever do if you're going to take it internally, because whether it's smoke,
you
food,
are what you
weed,
eat, yeah.
anything, you know, it's like those are all things that you got to imagine they're going to have to go in and come out at some point, you know, or stay there forever.
Exactly, they turn into you,
Yeah.
and you kind of want it to be good. Ryan is not pleased over there. He's just thinking about all the Taco Bell.
How much Taco Bell did you have last week?
Okay, so no, you know, it wasn't even Taco Bell. I had some buddies in town, and they were like, "Oh, we gotta go to Del Taco. I've never had it."
Del Taco is like
way better.
But it is way better.
Interesting point about Del Taco. They are from Barstow, California.
When it comes to eating it, I have been trying to make conscious efforts in it a little bit more. But I mean, dude, like, I don't know, man. Everything in moderation seems okay to me. I'm okay. I'm in good shape. You know what I mean?
How old are you?
24.
Crunchy, how old are you?
I'll be 29 tomorrow.
Can you use your 5 years of wisdom to tell Ryan why Del Taco is inferior to organic?
You may
food?
feel like crinkle cut fries make the spot. They don't. Different shapes usually mean it's not what it's supposed to be.
I know, like the chicken nuggets. I've seen that pink blob that they come from.
Oh,
but I don't even care.
Mechanically,
but I don't even.
I don't care.
This is the Ute. This is the Ute right
I don't
here.
care at all.
The Ute.
Well, no, but that's a good point for the show too, because you don't have to be a crunchy organic, you know, hippie like us to care about organic IPM. You don't even have to be growing organically to use an organic IPM regimen to save you money, and just, you know, it's about boosting the health of your plants more than treating a problem once it's gone.
Yeah, it's preventative. I mean, that's the whole key to everything. It's like your car. You know, if you want to wait until your oil light comes on, you're not going to have that car very long. You know what I mean? You got to kind of think about it ahead of the game.
Yeah. Or you could also say, if I knew I was going to live this long, I might have taken better care of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not such a great thing to think about, is it, at that point?
Oh, I do have an interesting bit of organic updates for Coot and Jeremy, too, and for the listeners. So we have the Rev on the last organic show, the Rev from Skunk Magazine. Become a good bud now, and he's one of the people putting out, you know, living soil info out there. And he had put in his book, True Living Organics, he recommended using a Fox Farm nutrient that I was like, I don't know, I think that has salt in it. And there was a back and forth on some forums, and someone posted a manufacturer sheet that said it had salt, but Rev wasn't really sure. I chatted with him about it. He did just email me last night, and he did end up using it at the end of a cycle, and he did admit that, yes, he did have some salt buildup on it. So, you know, the bottled newts, just because it says organic or organically sourced or organically chelated, it's not the same thing. Organic means different things, and Coot, you've talked about the certification bodies before and how different the definition of organic can be from one organic.
Yeah, and the other word that I would throw into your terms like organically sourced is meaningless. But the other big one that applies to food is natural. There's no regulatory standards for that term in food. You can imagine how little it means in fertilizers.
And supplements and things like that too, which is
exactly, yeah.
And that's something that kind of comes in when we're talking later about using the different essential oils and even neem. That's one thing that you talked about a lot, and I can't wait to get into the detail when we come up here. But everyone knows. Okay, neem, use neem. You got problems, use neem. But not all neem is equal. And not all.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely seen that in my trials. Like that Einstein oil.
If you
I'm not
buy
a big
neem
fan.
oil, if you buy neem oil on price, you're proving the old saying that the definition of a cynic is one who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. And it's no more. Look, the components of neem, the oil, not the compound, all right, but the oil. Compare. Even use Wikipedia. You can use Wikipedia for this one. Compare neem and olive oil, and there it is. It's a plant-based oil, and there's like 5 or 6 oleic oil is the major constituent of olive oil. It's a major constituent of neem oil. And you got a roll with palmitic oil. Anyway, I don't want to get it's not that complicated, but you can just do a side-by-side comparison, and you'll see that. And the reason for those variables in percentages in either one have to do with how you're pressing the oil. And the oil is pressed the same way in the premium stuff like Jeremy sells. It's a cold pressed, and that's why you're going to see the differences in some of the specific oils. And just like olive oil, you can buy cheap olive oil and you really get what you pay for. Well,
and does it matter like the
this.
starting source of the neem too? That's something I was curious.
Oh
about.
yeah, how it's grown in what district? Remember that neem arrived in India from Burma about 4,500 years ago, and at that time, a few centuries later, India was at the center of the spice trade, and so plants and spices were coming into India, and then they were going on to Europe. And so the exchange of plants allowed for the neem tree to end up in modern-day Iran, Iraq, Morocco, and other places. And what's interesting is that in each culture, it became a holy plant for that culture, with festivals and the symbol of the neem on their religious art, weavings and cuttings, stone cuttings, and what have you. But I'm just trying to explain that, there's a big difference, and the desert countries are the best. What neem trees need is a lot of light. They're like, in this sense, like legume or clover. They can fix nitrogen in the soil. Not all trees, most trees don't.
Right.
And it's an evergreen, and as long as it gets light, it will pump out the fruit. And it's the seed inside. It's a drupe like a peach, an olive, where the flesh, it isn't the flesh where the oil is taken from. That's used as livestock feed in India. But it's the kernel, the seed, whatever you want to call it. That's where the oil's pressed. And what's left over is, like any other seed meal, it's the remnants after the pressing.
That makes sense. So I want to talk a little bit more about, is there toxicity to, because I know you talked to me about how neem's used for birth control in India. Is it toxic to humans potentially in any concentration or not really?
You would have to, the book I use is a book written for graduate students at several universities in India. And you want sticker shock, go to Amazon and check out neem, a treatise, and you'll have $170 with Jeremy's advanced research skills. He found it for $43 delivered.
Nice.
This is not a garden book. This is not a, how to fix your plants book. This is a scientific analysis written by 4 people who have a total of 6 PhDs. And it's kind of overwhelming how deep the science is. But you'd have to drink an 8-ounce cup. You couldn't do it. You couldn't get it down.
Yeah, you'd puke it all out, right?
Oh, God.
I just get a little bit on the corner of my mouth.
Disgusting.
So let me ask you this. Is there
It's the
anything
worst.
about the neem that you can make it smell less like Indian food in my house when I use it?
No.
No, that comes with the territory.
It goes away quick though.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Ish.
When you're right after, you're like, whoa.
And I was looking at the essential oil blend you guys are going to get into, and frankly, that sounds like it'll smell really good. So maybe it'll make.
Oh,
up
yeah,
for it.
yeah. But are you able to open a web page without interfering with your sound and engineering?
We probably can. We can't really see the screen from our end.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, when you get a chance, go to Wikipedia. I know. But for this, it's okay. And type in lavender oil. And what I want you to do is look at the there's a table in the middle of the page, and on the left is what we would, but the lavender people call a culinary type of lavender, and the other one is medicinal. And when there's only three ones you really want to look at for this discussion is linalool, eucalyptol, which is why eucalyptus trees smell like they do, and camphor.
So you're talking about
But beyond
terpenes, right?
that,
You're talking about terpenes, yeah?
right, terpenes and terpenoids. Camphor is a ketone, but yeah, exactly. Can I explain what a terpene is? It's really simple.
Yeah, please do, because everyone knows that terpenes is in hash oil, and that's about what they know about terpenes.
It's terpene.
Okay, a terpene contains two elements, carbon and hydrogen. And a terpenoid contains an enhancer, which is oxygen, so it's carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So that's why THC is a terpenoid, because it has two oxygen atoms in the molecule. But I should warn you, as you go out on the internet looking for information, even people who should know mix up the terms all the time. So
people who should know better. People who should know
yeah,
better.
I mean, sometimes it's like, are you kidding me? I mean, we're not talking about a forum, where somebody's posting something. I'm talking about
a paper.
Anyway,
yeah, that's okay. So, I mean,
Okay.
and can neem, one question I always, like I said, what I like about organics is that it is sustainably sourced. I know that some organics, for example, guano, can't necessarily be sustainably sourced indefinitely. Can neem and the things you're recommending?
Right. Okay. In India, there was an attempt by W.R. Grace in the 1990s to grab control of the international neem market. So much for the claims that it doesn't work. Okay. I mean, W.R. Grace is going to spend a couple $1 billion because, it's slow day at the office. And that case went all the way to the World Court at The Hague, and India won. And after that, India passed a whole bunch of laws, one of which was you couldn't export the seeds, which is really unusual because the culture in India has been for millennia of exchanging plant materials. But I found a source for neem seeds out of Mexico. So and I know of two grows down in California that they don't produce any oil. It's for their own, use, whatever. And then there's a neem tree farms down in Florida, which from him you can order neem leaves, neem bark, neem root, So.
And how are those? How are the other parts used?
Oh, we're definitely going to get into the details on that when we get into the
Okay, that's fine. We're good.
Okay.
But let's start talking about IPM in general. Can we talk about what IPM is for folks who aren't used to the IPM approach to managing their gardens?
I'm not trying to play who's on first, but let me ask you, when you read or hear the term IPM, what does it invoke in your experience?
So to me,
frame of reference.
I know it. I've seen it stand for both integrated pest management and integrated pathogen management, and I feel like a third thing too. But to me, it's a preventative system for raising the overall health of your plants and introducing sort of like natural biological factors into the equation that allow plants to thrive like they do in nature.
It is.
Adam, do you want to take a stab?
Integrated pest management. And can I explain the difference between pesticide and insecticide for a second? A pesticide is a number of things. A fungicide is a pesticide. An insecticide is a pesticide. Rat poison would be anything that's a pest. An herbicide would be a pesticide.
If it kills something you don't like, it's a pesticide.
Exactly. One man's weed is another man's gift. That kind of thing.
So then, Adam, what do you think of when you think of IPM?
I'm thinking like similar, like preventative, obviously, but also working together with each other. The way, like, I mean, that's kind of
some sort of
symbiotic,
synergy,
symbiotic relationship between these different applications, and just knowing that you're not just blanketing it with something. You're actually giving it a key, and then working with the next thing, and then the next thing links into that, and that's kind of how I would see it.
So this step-by-step linking process.
So you're building it up slowly. You're not just kind of like coming in and saturating the whole thing and hoping it's going to do whatever the bottle says,
Right.
So,
right. So, Coot, how we doing on our definition?
If we could, I'd like to invite Jeremy to take over this part. I recommended a book for him last week, and he read it in like one night. That's how engrossing and engaging it is, and I'll leave it at that. He can explain the book.
Yeah, are you talking about the... I get the two confused. There's a video on the secret life of plants, and
I love that video.
The book that you recommended to me is actually a little bit more informational than that, and I can't remember the title. Can you help me out with that?
Oh, sure. Oh, good. My mind just went blank.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll look it up, and we'll find that in a minute. But
I'm really embarrassed.
This is about comparing the feature. Yeah, what a plant knows, and it's about comparing the senses of a human and how we interact with our environment, comparing that to the senses of a plant. And the science behind it is very detailed and really accurate, unlike the video that we see on Netflix about the secret life and how they react to music and other things. A lot of conclusions are falsely drawn from that video. And in this book, which you can download, get the ebook for like $10, it gives you some very specific traits about how the plant interacts, how it knows that it's the end of the day, how it knows it's the beginning of the morning, how it interacts and tells the other leaves on the plant to defend itself against pests, and that consequently communicates with plants around it. And anyways, it's a really intriguing read, and it compares how we see to how a plant sees. It compares, a lot of these different features like how we communicate, how we hear, and it goes into in-depth study on all of those different facets, and it also has some really good actual scientific information to back it up.
And what's the title again? What plants know?
What a plant knows.
What a plant knows.
And when you start thinking about IPM, you think, okay, so if I can start at the beginning, obviously plants can't run, they can't build a house, they can't leave a situation, fight a war. So when it comes down to defending itself, there's a complex amount of interactions between the plant, between itself and its environment. So if a storm comes, if a bug hits, it has to be able to activate certain defensive systems within itself to react against that. And that book is not really on integrated pest management, but it'll give you a lot of insight about how a plant works and how efficient it is with these reactions that occur in its own system. And that's some of the points we're attempting to leverage while using IPM. And the more you know, the easier it is to connect the dots and the missing pieces in your mind so you can have that confidence in your garden.
So I want to, one thing that we like metaphors on the show, a metaphor that we've thrown around here is that the difference between like an IPM approach and a conventional approach to pest management is the difference between like Eastern and Western medicine. Like Eastern medicine, they say you pay the Chinese doctor at the end of the year if you didn't get sick. It's not like, oh shit, I'm sick, let me give you some money to fix me. It's about putting in up front,
Sure, and that's a totally opposite of our idea, which is, wait until it's way beyond the point that you can actually do something and then not even address the issue and just kind of work around it. That's our great idea.
I'd like to comment on the book if I could.
Yeah, please.
There's a companion website, whataplantknows.com, so that can familiarize a person before they get the book.
And we'll link that in the show notes.
If a person is going to be really serious about IPM and understanding, Jeremy mentioned, the defense system that the plant creates, this book is required reading. I mean, I'm not overstating it, I don't think.
It's entertaining. It's a good, easy read.
So I think one interesting...
And it's written by a true scientist, too.
I think one interesting thing about IPM, and when you're talking about this sort of like holistic almost plant safety thing, right? It's not like you're talking about like we think about, Adam, right? Like you have mites. What do you use for mites? In conventional,
Fire.
not what do you use?
Fire.
No, but what do people
burn them?
You hear mites, you think Avid, right?
Sure.
You hear
Oh, you
rude
mean for
aphids, you
commercial?
think mallet, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, there's like every
trade names.
every one, right? You think you hear powdery mildew, you think
The compass.
Yeah, compass. There you go. You know, but when you're talking IPM, you're not talking about, oh, we're fighting one thing. Am I getting that right?
Right. Right, and that's why I will continue to make the claim that neem is the best of all, because you're getting fungicide and pesticides and the full array of elements, even calcium and magnesium, or CalMag lockout thingy, and then cobalt and boron, and some of the others become popular on forums. We're going to obsess about boron and cobalt. I guess molybdenum's the next. But yeah, it is very much a holistic approach. And when you have the book that I discussed, mentioned from India, especially, for example, I use Dr. Bronner's soap for my dog, and I use the tea tree oil, and I add in neem oil, and that's an IPM program. You know, when I give her a bath every 2 weeks, then I don't have to worry about fleas and mites or ticks. I mean, excuse me. Well, you have mites too.
Yeah.
Skin mites. So, you know, there's a lot more to neem than just it kills bad things. It also, in the Vedas that predate even, well, anyway, goes back a long time. Their word meant one that cures all ailments in life. And I can guarantee that far, far more neem oil goes into human and animal health products than ends up on plants and soil in the form of neem meal.
Interesting. So, Adam, you have a Dr. Bronner's connection, right? You're good friends with.
We love Dr. Bronner's, and that's like that. It's interesting that they brought hemp into their program only like about 8 or 9 years ago or something. That before that, I mean, I grew up with Dr. Bronner's soap.
Yeah, dude. The pack. I used to trip out on the bottle when I.
When I was a real guy, because that was exactly like we were talking about with neem oil. It was the birth control part that tripped me out. I was like, how do you use soap for birth control? I was tripped out, but now I understand it's a pH. It's a pH. It's an internal pHing. So. But yeah, similar. That's like, to me, Dr. Bronner's is the ultimate soap. I use it for everything myself. So
yeah,
love it.
And I feel like now, Coot, when we get into some of the other stuff, I'm going to ask you, like, can you use, instead of adding, say, peppermint oil, because that's on the list of your essential oils, can you use the peppermint Dr. Bronner's? Or you always want to start? No, okay.
That's not a oil.
See, I've screwed that up before.
No, those are primarily there for aroma. I mean, if you smell just soap, unadulterated, you know, it's not very pleasant, and that's where the things that we use for linalool, for example, you and I and everybody listening probably used linalool 8 or 9 times in the last 48 hours. You know, shampoo, soap, toothpaste, wash your, you know, you get the idea. It's ubiquitous.
So we got about 4 minutes left in this segment about what IPM is, and so Adam, this one I want to lean heavily on you.
Okay, tell me.
Because I want to spend 4 minutes on just horror stories, like what happens if you don't do IPM. Can you tell some specific anecdotes? I mean,
what I've noticed is that most people don't notice the problems that they have in their garden with, say, one pest until it's led to 2 or 3. And like one of the things that I think the first thing people always like fungus gnats, for instance, everybody's always concerned about them, and oh my God, I got fungus gnats. Well, they themselves not a problem.
Not a problem.
But when you see them, then you got to start looking, because they're vectors, you know, and they'll transmit other things to and bring other pests and weaken the plants. And what I noticed is, like, you just get hit with like a 2-part or a 3-part. Like you'll get russet mites, and you know, you get regular mites, and then all of a sudden you get, like, see, if you had root aphids or powdery mildew or something, then it's just a wipeout at that point because the plant's so weakened. And then if you spray anything on them, it doesn't really help because they're already weak. You know what I mean? So you just
sometimes like spraying chemicals on them can hurt them.
Oh,
when
big
they're
time. And
already
you'll
weak.
see, I mean, I've seen rooms where you're just like, what? Just you open the door and you're like, well, that's done. There's nothing left at that point because the plants they just burn up from the outside,
Yeah, definitely.
It can happen really fast, too.
Super fast, like overnight even. I've seen things where you're just like, wow. And people don't know what they're doing, and I've seen people create cocktails out of 5 different pesticides at once, and I mean, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you really think that's not something's not going on there?
Yeah, those are chemicals.
I mean, and of course, it might work to a point, but at what stage is that plant now? Also, from resistance purposes, I mean, it has none at that point.
That's an interesting question. So, like, the big problem with every traditional, conventional pesticide and growing is that you got some type of the pest that's resistant to that approach. And it's all about finding the new mode of action, right? So does that happen with the IPM approach or no? Coot?
The resistance?
Oh, excuse me.
So,
well,
like,
let me.
well, can things build up a tolerance to neem and things like that? We got about 2 minutes.
No, because of the way they work.
So it's
you have anti-feedants. You have this term really cracks me up. But anyway, it's what a scientist would use to describe prohibiting the laying of the eggs and things like that. It also disrupts one compound, nimbin, I believe, is that when it's ingested by the insect, it makes them, to put it in human terms, vomit, and they can't eat. So if you block their reproduction, you block their eating, and you block any eggs. That's why it's critical with neem. If you have an outbreak, whatever happens, you need to apply it every 72 hours with 4 applications to break the adult egg larva cycle. Otherwise, you're spinning your wheels.
Yeah.
That's one of the main points. We got a minute left on this segment.
Yeah, and I think also
timing
timing's really important too. A lot of times you have to understand the reproductive pattern of the insect or the pest that you're after, because once you do know that, if you know it takes every 7 days, you'll know when to apply or when to apply and when to and that is exactly probably the best technique. And it's like most of the other things are trying to like melt the entire bug down from the outside or something, and that's just of course it works effectively very fast, but long term definitely not a solution.
And actually that's how camphor works.
Camphor.
It melts the insect, and it also blocks the air transfer inside the egg, so that the first time I used lavender flowers, I went and bought some at Whole Foods, the dried ones. I made a tea out of it. And I sprayed, and the next morning I looked at the underneath the leaves, and I saw all these eggs that exploded, and I wept. I went, "Oh, I found it!"
Yeah.
So that led me on a path to find other, things.
Nice.
So we're in the next segment here, and this segment, after the jump here, after our break, we're going to go into the essentials of the foliar and the essentials of the root drench, and of course how to reverse engineer a lot of popular pesticides. But I just want to talk about sort of the basics of organic IPM, some of the synergy and interactions and the fundamentals that people should understand that they would get, for example, from the book you mentioned.
Right. I wouldn't recommend any book without having read it thoroughly and compared it to other information, research. And what I can tell you is that on the What a Plant Knows, if you just go to the companion website and just read the scientist's resume, you'll see that you're not dealing with the last guy in the clown car,
So what are some of the basics of how things interact? Or, I know that Jeremy had been telling me that a lot of what you use a lot of sprouted CTs and malted barley teas and things like that. And I do want to get into that in detail in that segment. But I'm wondering, is there is there a reason it has multiple purposes? Is there a reason there's this synergy across things? What are some of the principles, I guess?
Yeah, I'll defer to Jeremy on that for that answer.
Sounds good.
As far as the synergy between all the different tools that we're using, there's absolutely going to be a synergistic effect. And so when a gardener's looking at IPM, we've already discussed that prevention is really key. And if we get to a point where we have major problems, nobody's happy with that. I don't care what it is, essential oils, soap, any of it. We don't want to put it on flowers, and we want to get it totally to the point where there's no issues before we go into flower. And so that synergy is very important. And what I mean by that is when we're looking at root drenches, when we're looking at seed teas, we're actually looking at the overall health of the plant and its systemic acquired resistance. And this is some of the stuff that's in that book, What a Plant Knows, and discusses how a plant can actually go through some biological, physiological changes that get it ready and to prepare a defense against whatever is going to attack it.
So you said a term there that I've read in a few different things. Systemic acquired resistance or response I've also seen. Can one of you guys break down what that is, what that means?
Yeah, so systemic acquired resistance is basically just what it sounds. It's an internal defense system that the plant has. And when you start to look at scholarly articles, there's still a lot of research being done. We definitely don't know everything out there. And, of course, I'm not a biologist. I'm not somebody holding a major degree. So what I do is I lean on those people that have a lot more knowledge than me. And when you look at systemic acquired resistance, you see chitinase, you see salicylic acid, and you see some of these pathways working together as signaling activities between the different plant parts. And so if you think of a bug landing on a leaf, it actually activates a certain process in the plant that lets the rest of the plant know that it should defend itself against these certain things. And we'll talk about some of those actual chemical constituents that are part of that plant system. But just think of it, I guess, like getting a booster shot, so to speak. When you're using some of these chemicals or some of these organic methods, like introducing aloe vera for salicylic acid or barley seed tea for chitinase, you're actually stepping up the amount so that the plant doesn't have to have the bug land on the leaf to start the production. We're going to start the production for the plant so we can get ahead of the game.
So it sounds to me like there's like an alarm system, right? Yeah. Like you trip the alarm system, and so now you're just telling the plant, like, be on red alert all the time. They're coming.
Yeah, you ever get a booster shot as a kid? It's basically triggering the alarm system so that we know that if we come in contact with that flu or with measles, that it's not going to be able to have any damage. And it's similar internally to a plant. It's not like all of a sudden the plant gets a coat of armor. It's just that it can develop chemicals. Now, all of these chemicals and things that we use for different medicines are produced by plants. And so if the plant has the ability to produce these, why wait until it's already in a fight? So it's kind of like getting it prepared for that. And that has a lot to do with the health of the plant. So when you utilize substances that help the plant get healthy, and then you're also preventing through foliar applications of some of the proven anti-mite and fungus properties like neem and essential oils, you're covering the entire spectrum. So if something were to sneak in your room, it's most likely because you lack the discipline, not because something beat all these different applications that we're going to talk about today.
So I think what's cool... Yeah. Oh, sorry, Coot, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think what's cool to think about, and this is something I've always wanted to ask you, Coot, is like linalool, terpene. We know that that's in flowers, like it's in herb. Some of the other terpenes that I've seen, on the kill list, like those can be found in different strains. And so, does like stimulating this system kind of get that terpene production up?
Yes, and I'm going to say something that's really going to be unpopular, and no, I don't want to take any calls on it. But if you were to just take the list on that lavender oil at Wikipedia, and go through those one by one, and all I want you to do is look at the molecular formula, okay, the amount of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and put them on even a spreadsheet if you want. And then I want you to look at THC, and I want you to tell me what you think it is.
So you're saying that THC is essentially a plant defense mechanism, like the lavenders, and you don't want to take it.
Now, in the case of linalool performs two functions in a flowering plant. One is that because of the nice aroma that you and I like, or whatever, attracts pollinators.
Right.
But it's also a defense system against the bad insects or whatever, the pest, if you will. So most of these perform two functions, and I'm not joking. Camphor is in many, if not all, strains. It's just how much is there, whether
right,
can be detected. And so I have a question for you, gentlemen, because I want to preface this by saying that I know nothing. I know less than nothing about concentrates. I'm probably using the wrong term, but BHO and whatever. Explain to me how you can isolate a terpenoid 1 out of 200, or do those other terpenoids come along for the ride?
Well, that's a great question, Coot, and we definitely should put Coot in touch with Jim. I think they'd get along.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
So my layman's understanding of this, from what Jim told us, is you're definitely not pulling all of the terpenes and terpenoids, flavonoids, etc. out, and you're definitely not isolating any. Right. But the reason that now we come to pure speculation, hypothesis. I think that it's just that the limonene, some of the ones that really the really citrusy ones that come through better in oil. Right. It's just that they survive the purge They purge at a higher temperature / vacuum, and they hang in the oil longer, and that's just what survives.
I'm not saying this is right. I'm not saying it's even accurate. But I did a lot of research the last couple of weeks on terpenes and terpenoids, and I found one. It was a obscure reference, but the author claimed that delta limonene was added sometime to concentrates to improve the flavor. Not my claim.
No, definitely true.
Right,
definitely true.
Yeah, definitely true. Definitely true. I should have.
Okay.
Well,
there you go.
So,
It's definitely. It's
kind of the future right now as we see it. Is it's not maybe the best way to come to the results, I think, because it's better just to grow the right strains that have the right profiles and make your product from that. That's the best way to do it. But definitely there's a lot of people out there who don't want to go through that, and they want to be able to have 4 different flavors from one base. That is kind of the it's like we said, it's just the industrialization.
It's like orange juice, right?
Yeah, it's like OJ back in the day. You could actually get fresh OJ, and now it's almost impossible to find it in a supermarket or something like that, because it's so much easier to pasteurize it and run it all through these giant things and sweeten it and give it terps and
make the mix. Yeah,
make the mix.
I got a shocker for you. In this recent scramble to find information, I came across a company called Hyacinth, not like the flower, but anyway, biomed company, and they're working on a way to transfer the genetic information for creating THC into yeast.
Oh, I read that. I read that article. Yeah, we should have done
did you?
Okay. Yeah, well, Adam doesn't look like he's read it.
Really.
I skimmed it, Coot, and you definitely got more out of it than me. Why don't you? So they basically would.
Oh, no! I just read the first 2 paragraphs, and then I kind of lost interest.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was.
Still believe, to some degree. Let's look at the compounds that are in flowering plants, and we'll just I just want to concentrate on 3 because it's easier: camphor, eucalyptol, and linalool.
Right.
Okay. Well, those are used in aromatherapy. They're not my claim, but if you're a lavender person, you're going to claim a lot of internal medicinal values,
Lavender.
or components. And again, that's way beyond my, skill level. But I'm convinced that with Jim, you're quoting the gentleman, Jim, as far as the extracts, whatever you want to call them, concentrates, that, I believe that too, that a lot of the aroma agents take a ride, but just because we classify them as an aroma agent is maybe one sliver of the circle about everything that's involved there.
Oh, it's really actually Ashir, who's in the studio, was just we were having that discussion about terpenes yesterday. He asked me kind of what are terpenes, and we kind of came to it. It's really interesting because it's not like those things evolved to smell good to us. It's that we evolved a sense of smell to identify certain chemicals. And
exactly.
And that's what it's all about. The fact that they smell good to us, this is kind of what I think you're getting at. The fact that they smell good or bad or like burnt matches or like whatever is incidental to the fact that this is a chemical and we are learning to identify it by its smell and either poison us or heal us or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. I would interject one other thing, that in the last 5 years, because of advances made in isolating, extracting terpenes and terpenoids from plants, the number has risen by percentages you wouldn't believe.
As far as the efficiency of extraction?
We're just trying to identify them. For example, neem
how many
is a good
there are.
example. The neem contains 360 compounds. A lot of them are, well, most of them are, like, again, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Well, out of that 360, only 100 have been identified and cataloged. So it took them 18 years in India to figure out the molecular structure of the azodactyrin compound, for example. So.
Yeah, I have a question for all you guys, since you seem more knowledgeable on terpenes than I. I have had a personal experience which has been a huge influence in my decision to grow organically, and that is just to say simply that when you grow particularly cannabis, but also your fruits and vegetables and whatnot organically, it seems to really enhance and bring out all of those terpenes, the terpenoids, the flavors that we all enjoy.
It's more vapory, I think, is what it is.
And then that leads into my next question is why is it that certain concentrates, since you guys are more familiar than I again with concentrates, I find that people usually say that my concentrates taste like so much like the flowers compared to other concentrates that are being made. And what is the correlation between, if there is one, our organic cultivation techniques and somehow either an increased amount of terpenes or a preservation of terpenes that allows for our flowers and our concentrates to taste better than most, not to boast.
Yeah, no, it's legit. I'll say it. You don't have to say it. We'll say it.
Right.
Well, Ryan can say it. He spends money on it all the time. Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, I'm curious because I put a lot of effort into doing things the way we do them, and I appreciate the results, as do many of our patients at our center. But ultimately, I like to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. I do it because it works, but I'd like to know why.
Right. So, I mean, it sounds
Can
like.
I ask a question?
Yeah, please, Coot.
Of the folks there that in your studio, how many use neem in some form, either oil or meal?
I never have in our gardens. I don't spray my plants.
I know. Yeah, I think all of us are.
Even in your soil mix, you don't use neem meal in your soil mix, Nick?
I don't.
Interesting.
Maybe I should. I'd like to know why I should, if I should.
Well, we're definitely, that's a big part of the show today. So, so Coot, it sounds like about 2/3, 3/4 do. I mean, neem products are out there, I should say, and everyone is out there usually buying neem products for pest control.
Yeah.
To answer Nick's question, though, what it seems interesting to me, and this is sort of what I was getting at, is it seems like using this organic method stimulates this active response system within the plant. And as a result, because that involves terpenes, that's how it fights bugs, it makes your plant have more terpenes. Does that sound like what we're saying?
I think so, yeah, but what's coming out. Yeah.
But I certainly wouldn't suggest introducing spider mites to my grow or flower run
right, to increase your terpenes.
But let me explain something about terpenes and terpenoids.
Let's come back to that after the break, Coot. We're gonna do our shout outs to our sponsors, and then we're gonna do a little 5-minute musical interlude, and then we'll be right back into the essentials of Organic IPM Foliar.
So we want to wanted to have a little shout out now to Way to Grow, our #1 sponsor out there. Right now they're having their Keep It Cool.
Keep It Cool.
That's the name. Keep It Cool sale. And that's can fans, can filters, 30% off tomorrow and the next day, which would be the 17th and the 18th. In all the shops, I believe they're going to be having a twister demonstration with a new mini twister, which is interesting for everybody. Everybody I've said mini twister to, they're like, what?
Yeah, I can't even picture it. How small is it?
Well, I mean, I don't know. We have
to go to the thing, yeah.
We're going to be there for sure. And I will be definitely at the shop now I'm forgetting the address.
Gun Barrel shop?
No, I'll be downtown at the Platte River.
Platte River shop.
Yep. So Platte River is 15.
Come run into Adam at Way to Grow.
Yeah, for sure.
Right on. Let's also take a quick moment to give big shouts to Incredibles.
Knocked you out.
Knocked me out. Thank you guys very much. Honestly, my back was jacked, and it feels so much better now. So I got to definitely thank Incredibles for taking care of me. I took a Shears in town from New York. I took him over to the dispensary yesterday, and we saw the Firecracker bar for sale there, but it was at the rec store, so it was only like 25 milligrams. I was like, ooh, we got the better connect than that. We don't need the 25s.
25's rough.
Yeah, that's like that's a lot of chocolate. That's more chocolate than I'm really looking for. So
definitely best bars in the universe, I like to say. Denver area for sure.
And if you don't like candy bars, the Makiba bar
rocks. If you're into hiking or something and don't want to. Right now it's hot, so that's my suggestion for the melted. That's the chocolate problem is the
melts gets soft.
Summertime chocolate problems, but it's you can just carry a freezer around with you everywhere you go.
Sure. Colorado problems, yeah, hiking in summer. Of course, shout out to Build a Soil. Jeremy from Build a Soil helped completely putting the show together for us, and Clackamas Coot. So, guys, if you're liking the info you're digging on the show right now, Jeremy, I believe you're on the line. Can you tell them where to get what the URL is they can go to get the report?
Yeah, definitely. If you go to buildasoil.com, just all one word, and on the navigation bar on the top, you'll see a link to the right that says blog. Select that, and the most recent blog post is right up top, and there will be a form. All you got to do is put your email address in so we can track it as far as the number of downloads, and you'll be emailed a 13-page outline of today's show with the recipes that we're going to discuss, and on top of that, also linking to some of the scientific journals where we pulled the information from. And in addition to that, there is a 10% off coupon for the viewers of the Adam Dunn Show for the IPM kit and for the new essential oil blend that we're doing. You don't have to get it from us. We'll teach you how to build this on your own, but we like to provide things to make it easy for the customers, and that's at the blog at Build a Soil.
So, guys, check that out, after the show, and again, we'll post that in the links. Of course, shout out Nick from Boulder Wellness. Boulder Wellness in general, but Nick in studio today.
Yes,
with his modest
5420 Arapahoe, and they're still medical because they're just killing it right
now.
Any
updates? Any updates on Rec, Nick, or nothing? That
we always just add a month every time.
We always just add a month too. The reality is we're getting there as quick as we can. When all the other stores in Boulder decided to jump over to Rec, the perception amongst their patient body was that they bailed on their center bailed on them. So our sales just jumped, and I can't grow enough herb even for my medical patients right now. So
the last thing you want to do is
that's what we call Colorado problems. Nick.
3 construction projects. We're expanding our grows. We're opening the store. We're almost done remodeling the store. So you guys will get updates as soon as we're ready to jump.
Right on.
Sounds wicked.
And we got some music from our homies over at Smoker's Cough Record. Chris, you got music ready to drop? Right on. Don't forget to Google Smoker's Cough and check them out, folks.
Back in 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
I'm in the coupe, knock an AC alone. Yo, told her get in, but leave the AC alone. They hate me, I know. I'm crazy lately alone. I'm Patrick Swayze in the 8th with some tasty to smoke. And take these to go. Skate 3 and blow. Smoke cold, baby. We the 18, you broke. Like bums dressed, jughead, dumb wet, break a wishbone, fishbone, one dread. You ain't come yet? Love's dead. Motherfuck the whole world. One friend.
Hey yo, shaping, picking where the change make it rain on these bitches. And got them shooting blanks in my pictures. Switchblade sisters on the floor, cutting scissors in the kitchen, swigging liquor. Chris Brown trying to hit her.
Better than lipstick, you better get with it. Lick blunts, I like my chicks dumb, Special Olympics. Linking tunnel vision, and I'm thinking upper written. When I'm linking up with bitches, I be stinking up the kitten.
I be putting on that rich shit, dippy on the lip slick. Get a little funky when I'm fucking burn the incense.
Spitting gutter, spitting butter written. Lifted stutter visions with gifted brothers, sisters, fucking distant cousins. And I'm fucking with the crickets like it's Buddy Holly. She boofing like half a gram of moon rocks. Call that bitch Muddy Molly.
Ooh, wale wale, I can't feel my body. Huh, this oxy got me sloppy, chopping poppies and some drug karate.
Cock knock, hockey jockey, battle smock, block rock, hawk snotty rocky. I'll be on the Jabberwocky talkie. They can't stop me, Avi. Spot me copping Wallies in the Bronx with the shotty on me.
Ooh, loaded, drink about 440s. I'm on the 4th floor, fucking for a yo shorties. Notori, us, blunt and blaze glory. If you bump into my ex, done, punch her in the face for me.
When I'm brainstorming, take warning. I hate Jake's morning and fake skateboarding. Do you know what you're going through? Do you like the things that I bring?
I make an MC wanna sing for a living. Bitches getting jelly when they see how we living.
G, how the pigeon. I'm skied how I'm living.
Shade putting bitches on their knees like religion.
Keep out of prison.
Freaking out the system.
Eat out of fish, then skeet out the piston.
Martin had a dream.
TMFC had a vision.
TMFC had a vision.
TMFC had a vision. TMFC had a engine.
Yeah. I'm taking E having visions. TMFC having visions.
TMFC's in the kitchen. Doing this shit. Bitches. Yeah. Let me roll a cigarette. 1945. Piece of slang. Smoker's car. Smoker's car. Aoi. Elburn. All them cunts out in Australia.
Clackamas Coot from IC Mag fame, and Jeremy from Build the Soil. We're talking about Organic Integrated Pest Management. Now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, folks. If you're just joining us, don't forget you can go to buildasoil.com and go to the blog on the top right, and you can get a full report exclusively for Adam Dunn Show listeners that'll give you all the essentials that you need for, so you don't have to write anything down here. It'll give you the links to buy everything and a 10% off coupon. So with that said,
and thank you, Crunchy, for that burrito, because that was awesome.
Yeah, so let's talk about that organic burrito.
See, I got to eat woof that thing down.
So you know,
every bite was delicious.
I messed up the timer this morning, so we're gonna do a Way to Grow shout out now too, and then in 45 seconds we're gonna go.
Damn, Way to Grow
gets mad love. Way to Grow. Catch Adam at the Way to Grow, the Platte Valley Way to Grow tomorrow.
Yeah,
and the day after, just tomorrow.
South Platte River.
There you go, 1051 South Platte River,
I believe.
And Adam, you're gonna be there tomorrow or both days?
I think I'll go down tomorrow because Friday's gonna be a bit too crazy. And I want to also tell everybody we have 2 weeks left at the Hood Lab. So if you're in town, you haven't been there for some wacky reason, or if you need to be there a couple more times, you better hurry up because we got 2 weeks left. And you know how it gets on the last week. It's going to be not as fun.
It's all like gloomy.
We are going to have a big garage sale, though.
That's sick. There's sick stuff there.
And the e-store, man.
I think I might even throw the limo up. Yeah. I might even put the limo up for sale.
Oh, really? No. Selling the limo?
Thinking
it's
about
my office.
I'm thinking about it. I know a lot of people out there know the limo.
All
famous
right.
limo. It could be for sale. Let's get the hype out.
With all the money that you save by using the Organic IPM foliars.
Yeah, you can drive around in a big gas guzzling limo.
With Adam's face on it.
And balance out
So let's start right down the list of foliar stuff. The sprayer matters, right? You can't just buy any. You can't just use your hair sprayer to spray any of this stuff. Is that correct, gentlemen?
Yes.
So you guys recommend a Chapin sprayer? Can you tell me anything about that?
Well, they've been in business for over 100 years, and they make a lot of sprayers. A lot of the stuff at Home Depot or other garden centers, whatever, made out of polyethylene, and that's fine. But the problem comes down to the nozzle, and I promise you that you will not get any more than 3 months use out of them at that.
Well, and I'll be honest, I've sprayed a lot of your teas, and they get gritty. You put them through cheesecloth or whatever,
right.
But there's grit, and you run that through even your Mondi sprayer, your fancy Mondi backpack sprayer that everyone loves, the Scorpion as I like to call it, and you got to take that nozzle apart and unclog it like every 30 seconds. So does the Chapin doesn't do that?
The Chapin, or Chapin, however you pronounce it, 1949 is the model number, but Jeremy sent me a link to an updated version, which is a 19049. It's the same in terms of capacity. It holds 3.5 gallons. There's not a piece of plastic on it other than this device that holds your different nozzles, and they've got a huge range of nozzles. These are concrete sprayers. They're made to be used daily with solvents up to 30% solid matter. And when you buy one, you get 2 nozzles, and it's a V pattern.
I like those.
A gallon per minute and a half a gallon per minute.
So, Adam, tell me about them in your experience.
Well, I mean, definitely for getting in underneath and stuff, it's just amazing. One thing about any kind of spraying in general is you want to cover, obviously, everything at once. You don't want to have to go back and think because the minute the stuff is not in it, you'll even see it
if
later.
You miss a spot, that spot's going to get out of control.
It just hasn't got and so those that pattern though with the V like that is awesome because it just covers you want it to kind of not just hit the bottom but surround it in a way.
If you wanted the traditional bullet that we're all familiar with, they have one too. It makes these, you can't clog them, and if a piece that you should have strained or whatever causes a problem, the nozzle comes off in like 3 turns. I keep kebab sticks and a compressed air can, and boom, I'm back in business within 20 seconds. And they even make one, and that one's $7.50. So if you buy one at Amazon, order the traditional bullet type.
That's the nozzle is $7.50. Yeah.
Yeah, each nozzle.
Yeah. And the bullet is the adjustable nozzle, correct?
Yes, sir. I apologize. Yes. Yeah. Just like on a traditional
sprayer,
that you buy,
that little thing with the knob
sprayer.
on it. Yeah.
But they do make one that might be of interest if people are really, like I am, really anal about covering everything. They make a nozzle that only emits 0.16 gallons per minute, so basically a little over 6 minutes to apply 1 gallon, and it comes out as a mist. And it's
so that's
not
like
cheap.
those British sprayers that are the misters.
$35, but you will get coverage because you got nothing to do. You just kind of like make sure you're under every leaf, you're on top of the leaves. I mean, it's really amazing.
Yeah, that is kind of the thing with the sprayer, like when you over pump it and it's coming out too fast and you got to move, you don't want to like get it on the lights and get it all over the place. So the mist sounds like, and it, anytime you have a mist, it like permeates and it surrounds, like you said.
And what about
right?
What about electric
sprayers,
like
or foggers?
Foggers and micro misters and
things. I have no experience. If you have one, I would try it.
Cool.
I have one.
Well,
I will try it.
Yep.
So I want to keep it rolling because I want to make sure we get through most of the topics here. We got about 20 minutes left in this segment, which sounds long, but it's not when we go have all these details. So in your foliar, every time, that's my Coot motto, silica or potassium silicate. Tell us about that. Tell us about AgSil 16, which is, most people are still using Protect, I think, for their silica. And Coot's been talking about AgSil 16 for a long time.
There's nothing wrong with Protect, but here's
just expensive.
That too. But say we're even Steven. The problem is that when you buy a gallon, you need to shake it up to make sure that you're getting the material dispersed in the water, right?
Right.
And you know how it goes. sometimes you do a better job than others. By mixing it yourself, I buy those condiment dispensers like ketchup and the other one, mustard.
Yeah, like
and I mix up 8 ounces at a time. So that's easy to shake up and make sure that the material is dispersed completely through the water. That's the biggest sales point I would make about using the powdered XL 16H and all the other products that are out there that you find at retail garden centers. They're using Agsil too. It's a little complicated, but it goes back to your roots as a glass artist.
So hang on 1 sec. We got a caller on the line.
Okay.
Caller, why don't you go ahead and identify yourself?
Hello?
I guess we don't have a caller on the line. So, Coot, let's keep going. Sorry.
Okay, anyway, the parent company of Agsil is PQ Corporation, and they make a lot of things, or excuse me, their product line includes pure silica, like glass blowers, freehand glass blowers, not the rod work. And the purity is tantamount because in glass blowing, if you add mineral salts, like gold chloride, silver nitrate, other things, that's how you get colors.
Right.
Well, if you have adulterants in the silica, you're dead in the water as a glass blower if you're trying to do paperweights, which you need clarity, and goblets, and that kind of thing.
Right. Well, so let's keep moving now. So the next major ingredient in your teas, in your sprays rather, is aloe, and that's another good thing. Silica and aloe and coconut water I was using every time off of your recommendation. So let's talk aloe.
But let me let Jeremy answer that one.
Sure, Jeremy. 2
I
minutes
actually
on
had an
aloe,
interruption right when you're asking the question, so if you could repeat it.
Yeah, sure, man. So we're just kind of going through the benefits of things, and aloe is obviously one on the list. That's salicylic acid, I know from the notes you sent. What else is awesome about aloe?
Well, aloe is a plant that's got a few unique properties, like the salicylic acid, and when we're dealing with organics, we typically want to cover more than one base with each product. So you've heard Coot talk about camphor. Well, that's in several different plants, and so we'll go with what's most affordable, has the highest amount. Same thing with aloe vera. It's a dynamic accumulator. It will have the NPK range, a lot of micronutrients, basically a complete fertilizer, for lack of a better word. It's going to have everything in it, as well as the salicylic acid. And the reason I really like it is I use it for myself, I use it for my plants, and that's really my philosophy. When I was growing hydroponically, using all the different bottled nutrients, I never could drink my nutrients. And so I feel really comfortable using aloe vera in the garden. And it activates that systemic acquired resistance. If you just look up salicylic acid, there's a number of reports on how salicylic acid is used as a signal in the plant to communicate. And so besides that, when you add all the micronutrients and the nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus all at once together, you're giving the delivery agents, the secondary metabolites, and a lot of the beneficial properties of why aloe vera is already a medicinal plant, and then we just integrate that into the garden. So it covers a lot of bases, and it happens to have a lot of salicylic acid, so it's a good 2-for-1.
Nice.
That sounds like a great product.
And saponins.
And saponins.
And saponins.
Well, we have another.
Yeah,
we'll come back to aloe when
here's
we
to the
talk about
foliars.
the root drench, so we can talk about that then. So neem, and when we're talking, we already talked a lot about neem. Coot, obviously, you're number one part of the IPM. When we're talking neem, there's neem cake and there's neem oil. You talked about neem oil. What is neem cake?
Any seed meal that you buy at a farm store, cotton seed. Sorry, I said that one. Canola meal oil, or canola meal, seed meal. What it means exactly, or flaxseed meal. What it means is that after the oil is pressed, that cake, in most countries it's called cake, but in this country it's called meal.
Okay, so that's the neem
residue,
seed
if
meal that you
will,
would
after
buy
the
at the
press.
store. So neem seed meal, all the good stuff's pressed out of it, though. No, like isn't that
No,
the
it
oil?
still retains. The organic starts higher with all the various compounds and what have you, and so therefore the neem seed meal retains. Even if it were the same percentage, it would be higher. But in any event, you're looking at 5 to 10% of the oil remains in the meal, cake, whatever you want to call it. And I want to point out that irrespective of all the pesticide and fungicide compounds, set that off the table just as a fertilizer. It's an amazing fertilizer. For one thing, the gentleman said he wasn't using neem meal. Here's a reason to use it, is that it promotes nitrification. And I'll let you look that up. It'll take the rest of the session to explain it. But anyway, basically it slow releases nitrogen in the soil so that you're not having to continually to replenish. But the main thing is, obviously, for me, is that when I started using neem meal, you don't use much, a half a cup per cubic foot, so nothing. And I quit having anything flying around or
fungus
jumping or whatever, you know.
So it's kind of like a preventative in the soil system, in addition to being a
nutrient. It inhibits and almost completely stops the ability of the egg-laying insects to continue expanding or growing. And if you have like fungus nests, which I found this one last night in the book. Take about 3 tablespoons of neem meal, whatever, and sprinkle it on top of your soil and cover it with a thin skin, like maybe an inch of worm castings. You might want to toss in a couple tablespoons of, 1 tablespoon of kelp meal, and cover it with a skin of earthworm castings and water it in with aloe vera. You're done. It's over.
Fungus gnat's done.
Did you happen to notice any changes in the flavor of your end product when you started mixing things like neem meal in with the soil?
That's a question I've always had. Good question, Nick.
Absolutely, because it goes back to plants cannot take up, nimbin or salinan or whatever, the bitter flavors that you find unpleasant using it, So that isn't how it works.
So the answer is there's no impact on the flavor of your finished product.
No, other than that it's going to increase the amount of terpenes and terpenoids
that the plant produces.
So that's where
there's a beneficial effect. Yeah, beneficial effect.
Okay, this isn't a slam against hydroponics, but this is illustrated, right? If you look around the world at the plants that are grown commercially, and I mean like big volume, in greenhouses with hydroponics, you're down to 4 food items, and that's it. You got tomatoes, you got bib lettuce usually, butter lettuce, whatever you want to call it. You got those
peppers,
cucumbers that come wrapped in cellophane, English cucumbers. I don't know why
English cucumbers,
that is for Brits. And then those horrible orange and yellow peppers.
Yeah, from Holland. Yeah.
But here's why it doesn't matter if they don't have any flavor, because think about it. Every one of those items is going to be used in either a salad where you're going to cover it with
dressing or something.
Salad dressing. But do a blindfold test. Get an orange and a yellow bell pepper, and do a blind test and tell me if you can tell me if you can even taste anything, or much less taste the difference.
Right.
They're beautiful, though. They're gorgeous, right? I mean, you'd want to use them if you're shooting an ad for a magazine.
Right.
But there's no there.
So we're coming up. We got about 11 minutes, 10 minutes left in the segment. We got to still cover essential oils, kelp meal, and botanical tea, and Gil Carendang's recipe. So I do want to get all this banged out, Coot. So essential oils. I'm going to bang through the list here, and give me a minute and a half on why these are all great in general. Rosemary, ginger, lemongrass, eucalyptus, thyme, clove, cinnamon, peppermint, caraway seed, and citronellol are all...
Okay, let me get Jeremy chime in on this, because what I did was basically look at products and get the numbers on what they were using, and he delved into the science.
Excellent, Jeremy. And all this is in the report, by the way, for the listening audience.
Oils, what's up?
I just want to remind the listening audience that all the details that we're not going into very much depth in is all really in detail in the report at buildasoil.com on the blog at the top right.
Yeah, and if there's anything I missed, this is something we're putting together while we're also running a business. So please email me, call me. I'm available to communicate. This is my passion. It's what I love talking about. And when we look at essential oils, there's been a lot of discussion about it in the past. And a lot of people would say, you put a few drops of this, a few drops of that, or don't bother, just use the Dr. Bronner soap. And when you look at the studies that I cite in the report, you'll start to find out that lots of people have spent a lot of money because farming is a huge amount of income for these states. So like UC Davis, state of Colorado, their college program, they have people with degrees that are getting, hundreds of thousands of dollars of grants to do the research, because if we eliminate, even one pest problem, we can dramatically increase the output of crops. And so essential oils, they looked at different essential oils, hundreds of them, and they also looked at the mixing ratio as far as dilution rate and how that worked across the board. And you can look at the graphs. They're a little bit overwhelming, but essentially you see that a number of essential oils are effective. And that's what you're going to see as far as the essential oil sprays out there that we'll talk about, like S1E37 or Ladybug. And typically, you'll find these top 10, at least, that you just mentioned, the thyme, the clove, the peppermint. You'll find those in the sprays. And there's a reason for it. They're high in a chemical constituent that's been proven to be effective against mites or fungus or mildew. And so instead of just guessing, each of these studies will say, look, these 5 oils work the best against mites. These 4 oils work the best against fungus or mildew. And so extrapolating what I could from all those reports, we chose the oils that we selected here on that list and also in our essential oil blend based on a couple of factors. One is the effectiveness and the amount of the chemical constituent. Some oils, maybe cinnamon from one region, may not be as good as cinnamon from another region.
Right, there's Saigon cinnamon and Ceylon
but then there's cost. And so, for instance, lavender has that linalool and the camphor we were talking about, but rosemary is really high in camphor. And so it was more cost-effective to include it for the gardener to use that particular oil in our blend. And so if you look at the links in the article, you can do some more research. But essentially, all the studies out there have proven that there's like a top 10, 15 oils that have all the different constituents that have been proven to be effective. And then what I did is find out what's most cost-effective without sacrificing on quality. And so each one, we'll talk a little bit more about them. But
and even as at the most cost-effective rate, people can go and get them with our special coupon, Adam Dunn Show coupon code, and they'll get 10% off even, right?
Yep, they get 10% off, and that coupon code's good for 30 days. So if
guys,
you don't, get there to this weekend, that's fine. You'll be good to go. We want you to use the products, and we want you to experience the benefit. And one thing with essential oils is they're typically pretty sensitive to light. You want to use it with lights off. And the other thing is they're not 100% necessary. We talk about essential oils because people understand that. They like it. They have a good smell. But at the end of the day, the neem and the potassium silicate is really a very effective broad-spectrum way to handle your IPM routine.
So I do want to continue going
oils,
to the...
Instead of using one, a blend of them usually handles a host of challenges a lot better.
So I want to keep going to the kelp meal that you recommend, Coot recommended, and we got about 6 minutes left in this segment. So I want to cover the kelp meal, also the botanical tea, and then the Gilcarandang ginger garlic hot pepper juice, which I love. So the kelp meal, let's talk about that. Benefits of that, obviously, you have your... Go ahead, guys.
Yep. So, Coot, do you want to talk about kelp meal, or you want me to jump in?
Yeah, real briefly. Kelp meal provides the entire range of elements, micronutrients, what have you. But beyond that, we're back once again to the compounds and plant hormones that are in kelp meal. And there's also I apologize. But there's also a compound, this goes back to 1932. There's like a 3-year research study on kelp at Oxford University. And out of that grew indirectly Maxicrop.
Oh, Maxicrop, everyone.
But anyway, there's a compound in kelp, brown kelp, that inhibits the ability for the insect to lay eggs. So it's called an oviposition element. And don't laugh, that's the term. But beyond that, it's just it has been proven for centuries the benefits for human and animal health. And you look at the cultures around the world that eat a lot of seaweed, whatever term, including Ireland. The numbers speak for themselves. And if you want real science on this, go to seaweed.ie, which is Ireland, and that's Dr. Michael Gary's work. And you could spend a week there around.
We'll link that one, too. That's a good site.
Mitch, you talked earlier about plant growth regulators as well. As far as I know, there's some pretty good organic plant growth regulators as a beneficial byproduct of kelp as well.
Exactly. Kelp, the aloe, the coconut water, a lot of the things that Coot uses. And I want to keep moving. We got about 4 minutes. I want to spend about 3 minutes on botanical teas. Everyone knows about, well, not everyone. Many organic growers use compost tea, love compost tea, swear by compost tea. You were the first one to turn me on to a botanical tea. A lot of people are getting to the anaerobic teas right now, the bokashi, the fermented plant extracts, and a botanical tea is not that, correct?
Correct. And I want to steer away from the fermented thing because we just agree to disagree, you know.
Fair enough.
I'll leave it at that. What you're getting is with the unfermented tea are these compounds. You know, it isn't about NPK because if that were the case, you could just go to Walmart and get a bottle of multivitamins and eat a lot of cellulose, and that would be your diet. But you and I both know that's not how it works.
Right.
And by using a fresh tea, you're getting everything possible. I bought a tincture press. It's a mechanical device. I went to the lavender festival here in Oregon last weekend, and they did a demo on extracting oil from plant material. And they did thyme and some lavender, fresh lavender flowers. So I ordered one, and I'm going to play with it. I don't know. You know, I'll let Jeremy know, and he can provide that information to other folks. But kelp meal, on that book I suggested last week by Dr. Sen,
yeah,
I forgot the most important part. Do not go to Amazon. You're going to pay $75. If you go to Acres USA, you'll pay $15, so you can save 80% and support the oldest sustainable and organic farming publication in this country.
Yeah, Acres USA is a great organic resource. We will link that as well. I think I have the catalog come to my house just to check out what even the information in there is great, and then the books they offer are great. So, cool. We got a minute and a half left to talk about botanical teas. And so from what I get about botanical teas is it's like a water extraction of the water-soluble compounds in these various different plants. And we're talking about lavender, spearmint, peppermint, oregano, thyme, borage, comfrey, and yarrow. And comfrey and yarrow are, you know, that along with alfalfa to me are staples. Staples, yeah.
Right.
Borage you introduced as well. But what's interesting and I think unique to a lot of us is the lavender, spearmint, peppermint, oregano, cooking spices, essentially, thyme. So what are the benefits of some of those in about a minute?
Okay, thyme, for example, produces uber levels of thymol. Okay. Thymol is what you taste in Listerine and cough drops and some other products.
Yeah,
it's also used commercially as a fungicide. So that's it's not the only compound because you're going to get the limonene and linalool and everything else.
Knock a cold out too, focus.
Right? Yeah, thyme. I mean, all the stuff you use in a human body to treat.
It's like thyme oil will knock a cold out dead in its tracks.
Right.
So it's obviously doing something.
Is there any concerns about the effects on the beneficial funguses?
Great question, Nick. I want to. That's actually cool. We got about a minute, half a minute left on this, and that's a great question. Is this stuff going to hurt the beneficial mycorrhiza and fungus in the soil? Is it going to hurt your beneficial life, your nematodes and things of that nature, or is this really only going to hurt the pests?
I would not spray a peppermint, thyme, or anything into the soil. There's other ways to handle that, and I won't keep on a broken record, but we'll handle that with neem meal.
Okay, well, and we're going to go through the root drench right after this little segment here. So we got about a minute left, and let's definitely touch on Gil Carandang's recipe, the ginger, garlic, hot peppers. That's another thing. Like when you're sick, you take ginger, garlic, hot peppers, mix it with honey, and burn the cold out, right? Bam. So, Coot, that works on everything, right?
Right. Go to gilcarandang.com. It's the unconventional farmer. And you've seen his recipes posted online, and some of them have been altered. Here's the real deal. He's got everything, the lactose serum, the BIM, beneficial indigenous microbes, and the garlic ginger recipe. And, I mean, it goes on. Everything that he's ever published is there. You go to the source and not take an interpretation from a post on a forum.
And that's
gilcarandang.com.
We'll link that as well. And, Jeremy, I believe you have that linked in the report.
Yep, that recipe is in the report and some of the reasons why you'll use it. But essentially, really quick, it's just a lot of the beneficial properties of ginger, of the garlic, of the hot peppers like capsaicin, and those affect pests and different things. So,
cool.
And to circle back to the The teas, the botanical teas we talked about, those can be used as a replacement for normal water in your foliar sprays. But some people don't have these plants readily available, and that's where essential oils do come in.
Right on. It's the same compounds. Right on. Well, look, we're going to take 1 minute again to shout out Incredibles.
Perfect timing, right, with all those flavors coming at you.
Yeah, while you're
left,
in
right,
a culinary mood.
You're like garlic. And they don't
There's
have
no
garlic bar.
garlic
There's
in
no
Incredibles.
garlic bar, I guarantee.
The vampire bar, maybe for Halloween.
Oh, that could be disgustingly good.
So gross.
So gross, somebody wants it. Yeah, Incredibles, the number one.
But there are hot peppers in the fireberry.
Yeah, but garlic is a little... Garlic,
I know, but I'm just saying, we just talked hot peppers.
Crunchy's going to try it.
All right, sweet garlic.
Sweet
Crunchy's
garlic.
going to volunteer a sweet garlic bar recipe to Incredibles, the vampire killer
The
for
vampire
Halloween.
killer for Halloween. Perfect timing.
We'll see if they. We'll see if they bite.
You
like that? You like that? I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, good job.
All right, shout out Incredibles,
number one.
IncrediblesColorado.com, right?
I believe so, and they are the number one edible in Colorado and the universe, in our opinion. And that's the most important one, isn't it?
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, let's keep it moving, gentlemen. Back to Jeremy from Build the Soil, Clackamas Coot. We're talking essentials of organic IPM, and now we're going to talk about the root drench. So the first thing in the root drench, Coot, you are the champion of malted barley seed. Chitinase is a term you throw around a lot. Jeremy, I know you've done a lot of research on it. Gentlemen, give us about 2 minutes on why malted barley seed is wonderful for plants.
Same reason it makes good beer. We're back to enzymes in this case, and I'm going to let. I sent Jeremy an email this morning. I can't find it, but I found an analogy about enzymes, and it'll make sense. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Jeremy, do it.
Yeah, so enzymes are basically the catalyst. And if you think of a chef who's cooking, Jim sent me this link, and I really liked it. And it's one of those things where the chef's going to use fire, and that's actually going to cook the food. But you don't eat the fire. And so enzymes are part of a process that catalyze and activate reactions, but don't take a physical part of that reaction. So when you're using enzymes, you're going to essentially, for lack of a better word, speed up the process and activate processes which may not have occurred on their own in quite a fast fashion. And so when you've got a container of soil and we're indoors or in a greenhouse, it makes sense that with organics, one of the limiting factors is the ability for that ecosystem to break down the nutrients and break down the elements and deliver them to the plant. So when you add enzymes, you're catalyzing things and you're speeding the process up and allowing everything to work at its peak efficiency. And that's what we get out of enzyme teas in a very natural way without spending a lot of money like you would see in the bottled companies.
So what are some bottled enzyme products for comparison?
Pennies per gallon.
Like Hygrozyme or something?
Is Hygrozyme an example of an enzyme product? What are some of the enzyme products that the high-priced ones?
Yeah, Hygrozyme is one of them, a little different.
Okay.
But if you look at a lot of the back of nutrient bottles, you'll see protease, amylase. You'll
for
see
sure.
enzymes. And you'll also see zeatin, which is a process that comes from corn, like cytokinins. And so essentially all the seeds are going to have enzymes, and you will see it kind of hidden on bottles. It's not going to come out and say barley seed, enzymes.
Right.
But when you start to do the research and get the keywords, you'll see them showing up on a lot of nutrient bottles.
And so one side note I have under the malted barley seed is the chitinase. So and if I remember correctly, that basically kills bugs in the soil. It forms like bug-killing compounds. Is it? Break me down on the chitinase in about a minute.
That's a part of it. Yes, it deconstructs the eggshell.
Oh, that's interesting. So it breaks down the shell of the eggs. That's awesome.
Fungus is also made of chitin, so fungal walls can be attacked by chitinase as well.
So, wow, that's very interesting. So it's the enzyme that digests chitin, right? Which is what bug shells are made of and all that. Cool.
But remember that almost every plant creates chitinase. Only animals can create chitin, and only plants can create chitinase.
Wow, that's crazy science fact of the day. Did you get that, Adam?
Yeah, I didn't know that, though, that's for sure.
That's crazy.
Good.
So vegetables maybe help you digest meat. There you go.
Well, yeah, exactly. There's also the human health component, which is way, you could talk to 100 doctors, and you'd probably get one that would shake his head. Yeah, I think I heard about that during med school.
So let's keep it.
The advanced nutrition science.
Let's keep it moving to another common. Actually, really, all this stuff. Everything. Look at all this stuff, Adam. We got fulvic acid, aloe vera juice, coconut water, and kelp meal. All those things are good for plants and people. Yeah, for sure. That's the best thing about organics. It's all like almost as good for people as it is for plants, if not equally so. So fulvic acid, what does that do for plants? I know it has a really high cation exchange capacity, right? So let's.
Well, yeah, that's. Write this one down so you can look it up after the show. Wu, W-U, J-I, these are separate words. Jen, J-I-N, S-A-N. That's a human-grade fulvic acid product from our good friends Dr. Fost over at BioAg. But as Jeremy explained about enzymes, Dr. Fost, we've been studying this for 45 years, terms fulvic acid as the catalyst of catalysts. But it does a number of other things. Once it's inside the vascular system of the plant, it triggers some responses, several responses, and in the soil, it is also a chelating agent. So that's one of the things about organics is that it's really hard to pin down. It isn't just this. It's what's that expression about the total is more than the sum of its parts.
The sum is greater. Yeah, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, I know I screwed that one up, but anyway.
But no, and that's the synergy that Adam was talking about. So I mean, fulvic acid, and now fulvic acid is. Help me on this one. This always confuses me. It's the purple of the humic. There's purple humic and gold humic because of the California regulations. They're both labeled humic. The purple one is fulvic, and where's the gold one?
What California and Oregon did, and some other countries in Western Europe, is they made, in essence, fulvic acid a sub, whatever, component of humic, and that's, but basically the way BioAg creates their full power, fulvic acid, is that they take their humic acid and they use a fermentation process and extracts the pure fulvic acid. And if you go to bioag.com, you got to kind of go through what is, and then there's an explanation from Dr. Jerzy Weber at University in Poland, who is considered one of the leading experts around the world on humic and fulvic acids. And there's a color chart with the link that's at BioAg. There's a color chart that shows you the range, and I'm not really sure about the purple. That's a new one on me. But I'm not, it doesn't mean that anything, I wouldn't read anything to that. I don't know about it. But usually it's from black to gold. And there's a whole explanation about extraction. There's also a diagram of a humic acid and a fulvic acid molecules. And you can see why spraying humic acid on your leaves is a fool's errand. The molecules are too big to be absorbed through the leaf. But humic acid is smaller, and it can be absorbed, and that's probably the most cost-efficient way of using it, other than adding a small amount to the barley peas. Because we're pushing for enzymes here, so let's get something in there to push the enzymes to, this is a stupid word, but catalyze faster.
Catalyst of the catalysts, yeah. So let's keep it moving, Coot. We got about 10 minutes left with you before we end this segment, and I do want to cover aloe vera juice like we said. So aloe vera juice, obviously the salicylic acid. And salicylic acid, I know from, like, face wash has salicylic acid. I guess it's probably, what is
acne.
it?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
So what is it, clean, I don't know, is it antibacterial? How does that come into play?
That's where your saponins come in aloe vera product, and there's a slew of them out there. But the saponins are, with the foaming action, it allows for deeper.
Right, saponins are like soapy compounds, right? So they make bubbles and foam.
That's what. Saponins and everything you use to wash anything,
so
including root beer.
Root beers.
The high quality root beer, they add saponin to get a better foam.
Sarsaparilla. No.
No, roots have it. So aloe vera has your saponins. It's got your salicylic acid. It's got the full nutrient, NPK. Also, all the micros we talked about. What else does it have? Does it have those cytokinins? Does it have
Right,
growth
but
compounds?
let's go back to something that's more easy to understand. When you go and buy a rooting product, it's either going to be one of three: IBA, IAA, or NAA. NAA is a synthetic. It's a registered pesticide with EPA, by the way.
Right, so we don't want to use that. So it's IBA or IAA.
The other two are synthetic because even an advanced high school chemistry student and with a good lab could do, IAA, maybe not IBA. But anyway, those are found in kelp. They're found in plants. Don't use
rooting compounds in
creates
nature.
Roots for us isn't the only reason that plants create these compounds. And so in both your the coconut water, all of them, actually all of them, it doesn't matter. They all have IA and IBA in a natural, I don't use that word, organic form. And then salicylic acid was the first rooting compound developed 100 years ago at projects at University of Washington Puyallup and Oregon State. And it later became Hormex.
Oh,
That's
Hormex,
not to say
yeah.
Hormex doesn't have other rooting products with different compounds, but they extracted it from willow trees. So you'll see on a farm, well, I can go out and pick willow shoots. Yeah, you sure can, but I'm not going to do it. And when I can buy
100 willow cheese. Yeah.
Great.
Oh, aloe vera even better. And you know what I always think about with organics is like, what's it doing for the plant? This is how you figure out what the coconut, makes it grow like a palm tree.
Sure.
And we're going to get into coconut water in a second. But aloe vera, when you want to propagate aloe vera, you just separate off a cluster and it grows its own roots. It's not like you.
Oh, yeah.
And the same with willow,
It's
right? Like a willow tree, a branch falls down, goes down the river,
Those
catches
three
in
things
something.
are probably the easiest things: willow, mint, and
right. So you figure those are high in compounds.
I don't need to relive my youth to harvest salicylic acid. You know what I mean? Climbing trees and
cutting switches. So in about 2 minutes, Coot, let's talk about coconut water a little. My favorite top secret Clackamas Coot additive, coconut water, and we're talking about young Thai coconut water or fresh green coconut water.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And we want
it's an embryo. The water is the embryo the seed hasn't ripened. And when it accumulates on the walls, the inner walls of the shell, that becomes coconut meat or whatever you call it.
Right.
But that thing, you can imagine, in order to sprout and grow a tree, you can only begin to imagine the levels of it's too hard to explain, but everything that's in there. And again, we're going back to human health. Coconut water is highly recommended, and it's going to get worse because Coca-Cola and Pepsi got into bottling coconut water products. So you're going to see some really interesting claims. But at the core is that this embryo of this unripe seed has everything that you can imagine.
Well,
and it's one of the
we could think of just a seed that we sprout.
70 years.
Like when you sprout a seed, you don't have to feed that thing for a little while.
Yeah, and just the fact that
you're talking about a tree, not a little seedling. That's a lot when you're putting it on a plant. That's
it's amazing because even with the regular with a cannabis plant on its first 2 weeks, I mean, obviously there's something in the soil, but that thing can survive pretty well even in a napkin for 10 days, 12 days before it really is outside.
All seeds is strictly an enzyme, action enzymes. It has nothing to do with NPK. It has nothing to do with, because there's no root system.
Right, it doesn't have it yet.
I want to put a lot of nitrogen in my soil because I want that plant to really take hold. Well, I don't even know what that's about, but.
So with the glut of coconut water products on the market, is there a recommended source for the kind that hasn't been tampered with and still has the good enzyme contents that we're all after?
Jeremy, did you pick up that Harmless Harvest coconut water? That's my jam right there. I always recommend that one. I don't know.
Yeah, I love Harmless Harvest. I recommend people to use it. But as far as being cost effective, it's not really there.
No, it's $5 a bottle.
For Build a Soil, we imported from the Philippines, which is one of the largest facilities for coconuts because of the candy bar craze and all the coconut that goes into baking. So they've got these state-of-the-art facilities. We imported it direct, and the reason why we use the coconut freeze-dried powder is because unlike the coconut water that you'll buy that's cost-effective, those all come with a lot of preservatives in them. So the Harmless Harvest is great, but it has to be bottled, packaged, shipped fresh, all of that, and that increases the cost. The powder we carry at Build a Soil is really cost-effective. We package it fresh for each customer, so it doesn't come in a brick. It's really flowy and it's easy to mix.
And Nick, we'll definitely link you up with Jeremy because all the soil amendments, everything we talk about, you and I, and everything we've talked about on the show, he's the best source for it.
Lovely.
So we got about 4 minutes left with you, gentlemen. And again, I want to thank Build a Soil, Jeremy from Build a Soil, Clackamas Coot, for agreeing to come on the show. These guys are some of my heroes in organic growing and definitely some of the heralds of the current phenomenon and resurgence of organic growing and scientific organic growing. But like I always say, you guys taught me that you don't need the grocery store, you just need the grocery store, and you can reverse engineer some of the most expensive products on the market. In the report at buildasoil.com, you click on the blog in the top right. It's the most recent post. There's the recipes for Liquid Ladybug, SNS217, GC Mite Spray, and EcoSmart. And those are all in the report. Adam's nodding his head. I know he's psyched on not, even organic pesticides are cheaper than like Avid and stuff, but even still, if you could do it for pennies.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even, it is cost, but at the same time, it's definitely the feeling that you're using natural products along
and
the
it's
way.
fresh.
Things you can touch.
Fresh made. It hasn't sit on.
Here's the biggest reason for using the oils versus, say you figure out what's in ABC bug spray.
Right.
Well, as soon as there's going to be an emulsifier in there, there's going to be a surfactant and 98% water, or sometimes 99. Well, those compounds are going to degrade and quickly. So when you mix it fresh, you're getting the full bore impact of the oils. It's like, don't ever buy a ready-to-spray neem. You might as well just put straight water in a sprayer and have at it. It'll be more effective than that stuff. There's a bunch out there like 70% neem and 30. Don't buy it. It's crazy.
I have a quick question on the effect of the neem on beneficial nematodes and stuff of this
Great
nature.
question,
And we talked a little bit about some soil additives that might have fungicides in them. I mean, I find as an organic gardener this constant struggle to maintain a healthy, properly balanced level of fungus and the proper type of bacteria in my soil, and I use beneficial bugs instead of pesticides when I have any issues in my garden because I won't smoke anything that's been sprayed with anything.
Right.
And if I won't smoke it, I won't sell it in my store.
For sure.
So I just think that there's an opportunity to just educate a little bit on, the balance between taking care of your soil and your plants without harming the beneficials that are there.
Yeah, Coot, we got about a minute and a half. Let us know.
That's been so well documented and researched in the academic book. But let me tell you this. I'll make you a deal. You buy enough neem meal from Jeremy, and you mix up, say, a 2-gallon pot and put a marigold in it. Whatever you want. I don't care.
Something other than a cannabis plant you're trying to run.
Well, I don't care. If you want to sacrifice a clone, go for it. I'm just saying. To me, it doesn't matter what plant you want to use. All right. And if you don't see a profound change, then I'll pay for it. I'll send Jeremy a PayPal and cover your costs. How's that?
All right, I'm going to take you up on that challenge. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we'll definitely set that up.
Not a challenge. I just want to,
It's a hell of an offer is what it is.
That's why neem is so great with IPM is it does target a lot of the beneficials. And when you look at IPM, it's about increasing the beneficials and decreasing the ones that we don't want. And that's so challenging with the typical Western, kill-it-all type approach. We don't want to kill everything. We want a lot of the beneficials, and neem is an integral part of that. So,
and that's, I think, the key with so much in organics, whether you're talking teas, IPM, even just growing. You're creating a system where the good guys can win on their own. You're giving the good guys enough of an advantage to win. That's it.
Hey, I just want to say thanks to both of you guys for being on here. I know my whole crew in the garden is listening to the show right now, and we're all just so eager to learn all these, fine-tuning our techniques and whatnot. So thank you both for your input so much, and thanks to Mitch and Adam for hosting everything out here. So big ups.
Yeah, thanks to Nick for coming on and supporting the show. Gentlemen, of course, want to thank you, Clackamas Coot, Jeremy from Build a Soil, as always, for the support, for being on the show, for educating the community.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's always great to get such vital information, and it's also pretty simple too. When you put it all together, it's not the most complicated program you've ever seen. It's a lot less complicated than
following the chart from the grocery store.
Well, yeah, or listening to somebody tell you what they think might have worked. You know what I mean? This is something proven.
So
thank you, gentlemen, for the invitation. I appreciate the opportunity to share some information that might be helpful to people.
Coot, always a pleasure.
And I just want to interject one last thing, as Adam just mentioned, that this is simple. We talked about a lot of stuff. Don't get overwhelmed and bogged down in the details. We talked about a variety of options. At the end of the day, if you were to do weekly potassium silicate and neem, you're going to cover a lot of the challenges that you'd experience. And in that free report, we walk you through what it might look like on a week. One foliar, one root drench, something like that. It doesn't have to be an everyday, brain confusing thing. It can be simple.
For sure. And you're not also stacking on top, because a lot of people I know, they just throw as much as they can at it, thinking that that's going to make it bigger, better, more. And sometimes it's so obvious, especially with hydro compared to good organic cannabis. What I was saying earlier is it's more of a vapor comes off of organic. Like there's no vapor coming off the hydro. It looks beautiful, and
but you don't smell that.
There's not. I mean, even if it smells good, it just doesn't have the vapor. You have to break.
It's complex. You can't put your finger on exactly what that is. But
even
like
just like guanos and things, pull those out. Like simple little things. Pull out that vapor and that's the winners always in my book.
Right on. Well, thank you guys for being on. We're gonna have to cut you off right here, Adam. We got a minute for shout outs. Ready to do it?
Tough one.
Get going.
Well, first of all, I want to say we have 2 weeks left, and we're also taking memberships because the Hood Lab. For the Hood Lab, we're never ever now here. We'll take memberships too. Just throw me the money, but no, we are taking memberships $42 for a quarter, like for 3 months, because you might just be here for a little while. But $100 a year, you're going to get something out of it. It's not going to be our lab will get better and bigger and more. It's going to actually be, I think it's going to be a couple labs or something. That's what I keep hearing. Multi-labs. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
The lab's always been like a hub of the community, and like allowing everyone to be a part of supporting it and making it their own through membership. I think that's the way to go. And then we have a private spot, right?
We have multiple private spots,
Yeah, boy, that's called a network of private clubs.
It's a cartel, I think.
Adam said that on the radio, not me.
I don't know. Shout outs to my beautiful wife, Cece, my little baby Nick, tearing it up down at the lab. Shout outs to Vinny and all the crew down there, keeping everything rolling for so long. And, everybody's crying, but don't worry, we're coming. We're getting bigger. And shout out to my mom out at the farm and Kojak and the whole crew. Sorry, Jack and the crew.
Right on. And I got to give shout outs to my beautiful wife, Reese, and my wonderful, amazing, precocious baby daughter, Farron. Also, guys, Cannabis Aficionados Handbook. It's on Facebook. It's on Kindle. Hard copies will be out the 27th. I think I'm going to put it up for pre-orders, so check it out. And don't forget, Adam Dunn Show on Facebook, Adam Dunn Show on YouTube. Leave your comments. We like to hear from you guys. And have a great week, and we'll talk to you on Wednesday.
See you guys next week.